Welcome to The Nature of Mental Health, the podcast where we explore how time outdoors supports emotional well-being, resilience, and healing. I'm your host, Will Henry, clinical social worker, nature-informed therapist, and founder of Riverstone Mental Health Collective. Join me as we dive into practical tools, meaningful conversations, and inspiring stories that help us reconnect with the natural world and ourselves. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. Welcome, Lali. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've been really actually excited for this conversation for a few weeks. So I thought before we dive into talking about nature therapy, you could tell us a little bit about your practice, inner world psychotherapy, and like what you offer other than the nature therapy, because I know you have a lot of offerings, which are really cool.
Yeah, thank you for having. I've been excited about this too. I am a solo practitioner here in Westchester, New York, and I help women navigate people pleasing, anxious attachment, and the difficult family dynamics of emotionally mature parents. Really, the crux of my work is in this belief that I have that everyone deserves to feel worthy of taking up space and um, living in the
Love that.
most authentic life. Yeah, yeah. And I do that through all different modalities. I have a very psycho-spiritual lens that I like to navigate my work through. And that is really intertwined with nature therapy, hypnotherapy, and ketamine-assisted psychotherapy, are all modalities that I bring into the work. But everyone's experience with me looks a little bit different, just based on what their needs are and what I can offer. But I'm so excited to talk about ecotherapy, especially winter, because a lot of my clients have been struggling with winter and the darker, longer nights, and we're here coming with the solstice. So I'm excited to get into how nature we can lean into this.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I love that. I love that. I thought it was really interesting when we met a few months ago, just by chance at like a therapist social hour, right? Kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, you do nature therapy too? Like it's a rare commodity up here in Westchester, though we have so much wild space to do this kind of stuff, even parks, and there's just so much natural resources. And I don't see a lot of people doing this. I know there's a couple of people that do um, like after school programs, summer programs for like rewilding and things like that, which is awesome and super needed. But I think we're the only two that are doing this clinically, specifically for like mental health work, right?
Yeah, yeah, that I've found. Yeah, I was so
Yeah,
excited when you said you were a nature therapist. I was
I
yes,
know. Me too.
another.
I was like, wow, this is awesome. Cool. What got you interested in nature therapy, like to start with?
Yeah, no, I mean, I have always lived in pretty urban areas until I moved up to Westchester. And I've always loved nature. Like I mean, I lived in a suburb that did have like a creek behind my house, but there's tons of houses around that.
Right.
But every time I'd be in nature, I just felt so connected and so grounded. And that seems like an obvious thing, but the more I began to connect with it, the more I studied in the shamanic realms and the animist approach and really like leaning into that. And I began to really experience that as truth through my experiences of being out in nature, of that we can see ourselves in nature and it's a mirror for us. And it's such a great way to integrate. Like when I've done like plant medicine ceremonies, like going out in nature would just like everything that was like a little blurry or confusing would just click. It would just make sense when I would just spend slow intentional time out there. Um and so I was like, this is medicine. I mean, we need to connect with this. And we're in our work, we're intentionally trying to connect people with themselves. And in like a spiritual lens, like everybody is interconnected, we're all interconnected. And that people who want to connect more, like nature is such an easy way. It's so accessible, even if you
Yes.
do live in urban areas as well. Like I started to really get interested in it when earthing and all that when I lived in Brooklyn. So even
Mm.
going to like Prospect Park and stuff, I
Yep.
was feeling like I was able to connect with nature as much as I could in that space. So it really amplified when I moved up here. But what about you? How did you get into nature therapy?
So yeah, I mean, I want to first like second like loudly what you said about like, being connected to nature, because I that's part of my thing is that we are part of nature. We are nature, right? And this idea that over the last few hundred years that we're separate from the nature isn't it. I was actually just recently I was driving back from Baltimore last weekend and was listening to a podcast that had Robert McFarland on there talking
Mhm.
about his book The River is Alive, or Is a River Alive, I think is what it's called. but he is just the way he speaks about nature, and he personifies it kind of, not as like a human personification, but as it is, it's a living thing. The living, see, I said language is important. And
Mhm.
Robert Wall Kimmerer talks about language being important, and how if we refer to nature as it or a thing or that, or, you know, it de-animizes it, right? It makes it separate from, and we are part of it. So I wanted to second what you said about that, because that's so accurate. But I grew up in Tennessee, and camping my first steps were taken in a campground. And I used to play in the woods, like literal forests I had right by my house, and like the stream running through. And it's always been like my favorite place. And I've always felt at home and at peace there. And I know that's not the case for everybody, but when I was doing some training and like looking for ways to get my CEUs and stuff for social work, you know.
Mhm.
And I was like, I wonder if there's anything about nature. I just started searching, and I came across the Center for Nature Informed Therapy. And I was like, huh. And then they in 2022 started offering CEUs for their trainings, and I was like, oh my god, just it like was meant to be. And so I signed up, and you know, and been trying to do it ever since. So in a clinical way,
Amazing.
right?
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing how organic these things can come into
Yes,
form. Yeah,
yes, yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
But at the crux, it's just like it's just connection. It's just like a love for nature.
Right. It's a connection, because I mean, I think absolutely that the mental health crisis, the loneliness epidemic, all of this stuff that's happening now, you know, I believe that it's part of the contributing factors of that is our disconnect from nature, because we are really
Mhm.
separating from ourselves. Because when we go out into nature, when we go out and do these things, I really feel that we're going back to ourselves, because we are nature, you know, and that reconnection that you're talking about is so real and powerful.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, language is everything, that calling it the it and the ways to separate ourselves from it. Um, yeah, I think we do that. Like we think about all like the paper that we use and whatnot. Like if we can have trees be it, then we don't maybe feel as connected or as terrible when we see deforestation and whatnot. It's like, oh, it's this terrible thing that's happening over there. But if it's happening over there, it's happening over here because like you said, that interconnection, that's just it's a mycelial network. I mean, truly.
It is. Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
you know, I don't know, I'm thinking a lot about it lately, so that's kind of why. So, and I was really just taken aback by that interview I was listening to with Robert McFarlane, because he's just, I got to read that book, so I didn't know about it, but Is a River Alive? And
I
he
wrote it
spent
down. Yeah. I was like, I can't answer.
he's up there with like Robin Wall Kimmerer, supposedly. So who is just like,
Mhm.
her book Braiding Sweetgrass. It's like the book, right?
Mhm. Yes. Great book. Yes.
Yeah. How did you? What does like nature therapy look like in your practice?
For me, it's walk and talk in nature. And we're not always walking necessarily the whole time, but we're moving through nature. And that could be sitting, we're moving through it still because things are still happening in nature all around us. And that could be just a stroll through nature, and having a conversation, walking, moving the body, kind of being in the fresh air and the sounds of the animals, and that alone can be so medicinal.
Yes.
And you to be connecting with the elements as well. And that means going through the like it's not just when it's perfect 70-degree weather, like going through nature when it is adverse. Just like we go through life when it's adverse and we go through the difficult seasons of our lives or the uncomfortable, I should
Love that.
say. So if it's snowing, we're still out there. If it's really hot, we're still out there. We're just bringing our water, we're layering up, but we're connecting with the elements no matter what because we're having a parallel experience with these seasons. Um, and I know winter is like a very difficult time for some people and they don't want to go, oh, it's bad, it's cold, like I'll stay inside, but it's so bad for our mental health to
It
just coop
is. So,
ourselves in the house. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love the walk and talks too. Those are my favorites. I find, especially with younger people, adolescents in particular, who, you know, you're sitting in office, you're looking right at them. It's like there's more pressure, and
Yeah.
they that parallel the posturing where we're walking side by side, both looking forward. It takes away some of the pressure, and then you add to that the natural effects, biological effects of nature, being in nature. That lowers your heart rate. It's a soothing. There's all kinds of chemical reactions that are actually going on, especially in evergreen forests and stuff. I won't go into
Absolutely,
that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
get geek out about it sometimes, but
No, I love it. Yeah, yeah. And literally moving the body too has these reactions in our brain where we're like, rather than sitting for hours. And for therapists too, I mean, we sit so much in this
so
field, so
much.
normal to sit. And like, how much better are we thinking when we're moving and
Absolutely. And the
relax?
rhythm, you were talking about no matter what season, right? The light rain. I'm like, for obviously torrential downpours and thunderstorms and snow squalls and things like that. Maybe we'll
Right.
stay, we'll go inside where we can even do nature
Yeah.
stuff inside too. I was saying about the adolescents, I just find, they don't always respond because they're like, I don't know about this, sometimes, but I also find the ones that are able to, after a couple of times, kind of like go out, relax a little bit, and then it's just they feel safe. The land kind of holds them. And it's like
Mm,
this added layer of safety because we spend so much time as therapists, right, developing that rapport, that safe space for the clients in our office, therapy space, whatever that looks like. And then going outside, it's like an added layer of safety because nature's coded into our DNA, right? We
mm.
spent 175,000 years outside with moving with the seasons, with the rhythm of the seasons, and you don't just step away from that and keep going. It's that's where that disconnect is, right? Because it's in us.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's like you said, it's leading to this mental health crisis that we've so many people are feeling disconnected and looking at their little screens and trying to connect, and it's right in front of us. If we go out and look at a tree, touch a tree for a little bit, put our bare, I mean, right now with the snow, we probably won't put our bare feet on the earth, but we
right.
touch a tree, we can get the same connectivity, and our whole entire body responds to that, and our consciousness. And it seems so simple, but it's so difficult to get to at the same time. So it's great that we can allow that space, that intentional space, with our once a week, where someone could be connecting with their emotions and their body and nature all in the same space.
All in
And
the same space. And I love what you said about even in urban areas, the Prospect Park, even like a local tree, has that opportunity to hug the tree, to touch the tree, to feel the grass under your feet, but I feel like even one little tree can offer like a whole vast ecosystem. To be intentional is where I was going with that, because you use the word intention, which is so important, because that mindfulness, that mindful attention, intention that you're spending with that living thing is powerful. So
absolutely, intention is really just bringing our attention. And where attention goes, energy flows. So if we want to bring our energy
I love
into
that.
the earth and into our connection with the earth and ourselves, we're by bringing our attention to the, because we're just the same thing, right? Us and nature. So if we're bringing our attention to nature, we're bringing our attention to ourselves. We're being kind to nature, we're being kind to ourselves.
Love that.
Ram Dass said, when you're hugging a tree, you're hugging yourself. So, yeah, it can be it's so medicinal.
Well,
It's just
but no,
so
but it
medicinal to
is
get out
medicinal.
there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is medicine for our souls, right? It's medicine for our health. Um, like we've been saying, we're reconnecting with ourselves. And part of being part of having mental health challenges is the disconnect. It's that we don't feel like ourselves, and having the opportunity to come back to ourselves in nature and just be. And that's one of the things I think is most important about nature, is that we get to exist as we are. We're not asked to perform. We're not asked, there's no expectations, there's no obligations. We get to just show up and just be. We don't expect anything other than what nature provides, and it doesn't expect anything of us. Because everywhere we go, I mean, there's bills, there's expectations in society, there's everything, all over the place, and we're constantly like, how do we manage all of this? And once you step outside, step on a trail, step into the grass, step into a place, it's just all of that just kind of fades away, and we get to just be for a little while.
Yeah, yeah. We can kind of just let go of all that conditioning, all those expectations, and
Conditioning.
just
Yeah.
really be ourselves. And I really feel like when I'm out in nature, like my inner child just comes out and I'm just like so playful. And my partner and I got really childlike play, like using sticks as like little swords. I don't know. It just like, turn into children
Yeah,
when we get out there. And it's so fun. You just let go and just like stop thinking about the bills and all these things that are like, not
it's
that
a
we want
sense
to
of awe, right?
embrace. Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
sense of awe, that wonder, and it's childlike, and I know like some people look at that as like a diminishing, well, not a child, but we all have that child within us, like you were saying, that inner child, and that inner child needs something. There's always something that we need, right? And nature gives us a lot of gives it back to us without asking for anything in return.
Yeah.
So I find that really powerful too.
Yeah, yeah, she holds us. I mean, Mother Earth being like the original mother, just be like you can
Gaia,
just
right?
let
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yeah, and be that, be a child because you're being held by your mom. Yeah, yeah. And I know in some nature settings you probably don't want to let go too much because of bears and bobcats and
Right.
stuff, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
generally in deciduous forests here in New York, you can really let go. Like we really
Yeah,
have a lot of
you can let go,
opportunity
and
to
you
let
can
go.
you can be free to be creative and
Yeah.
spontaneous and excited and have that childlike wonder. Um, I love that. I go hiking locally and just, oh, look at that mushroom. One of my favorite things is ghost pipe,
Okay, yeah,
and
yeah.
it happens like 1 week a year,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know when. I have no idea, but I see it every year. I see it, and I'm always like, wow, And I get down on
Really
my
cool.
knees, and it's just so beautiful. It's these white, like I think it's a fungi,
Mhm.
um, but they're just beautiful, delicate, and they're like their heads bend over, and they look like monks, kind of like praying to me,
Mm.
and it's just, but they're so beautiful. And I saw them first time as 10 years ago, I think, up in the Adirondacks on a hike, and was just like, what is this? I'd never seen it before, but I see
Yeah.
it here in the Catskills. I see it locally here in Westchester as well. And it's cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing how just like within a few days or within 1 week, how much can shift in nature. Like we think about the four seasons, but within each season, there's so much seasonal change. Just like our lives, we're
Yes,
in
exactly.
like a season of our life, but there's so much happening in that season. Um, and like deaths and rebirths and changes and composting and all sorts of things that are parallel. So yeah, the more time you spend out there, the more time or the more you see that, you can kind of lean into it within yourself too. Of like,
Yes,
oh, this it's okay that this is how it's meant to happen and unfold like this.
love
And we
that.
can kind of release some of those expectations that you were talking about that are just kind of thrown onto us, and really conditioned and all the pressure that comes with it. I think there's a lot of pressure this time of year to be really excited about the holidays and to have a travel like the travel for Thanksgiving and 2 weeks later travel for Christmas and get all these presents and wrap up the new old year and check like do your taxes and like all these things are just it's so unnatural for us to be in this like summery mode. And people are trying to resist it, and the more that we resist it, like Carl Jung said, "What we resist persists." I'm like in the quotes today, I guess.
I love it.
But like
Love
we're
it.
trying to resist this like wintering and be in like the summer mode and have all this energy and do all these things, but it that's what's harming us is that we're not leaning into we're like leaning into our expectations rather than our natural way of
We're
just
leading into the shoulds.
yes, yeah, don't shit all over yourself.
Love that. That's great. Don't shit all over yourself. Absolutely. No, I love, you know, uh, autumn for me is like a time of reflection, right? It's when I kind of look back, as I'm now, like solstice is on Sunday, I think. And I look back and I look at the things that have served me well, the things I'm grateful for, uh, and also like the lessons I've learned, but the things that I've realized don't serve me anymore. And what do I need to let go of? And then going into, I mean, for me, into the winter season, I was thinking about it. This was just, when was this? I think last month, about what am I going to do this winter? And I started thinking about how I see it and how I can better, I don't want to say use the time, but rather than hiding out and being, cold and in the dark and staying inside because it's cold out, but, going out and being in nature kind of gives me the freedom and the space to almost like plant seeds is the way I was looking at it, because I look at, the equinox spring is the time of birth and like action, and like all of these flowers come to life. The snowdrop is one of my favorites. It pops up in like late February. It's just
Mm,
this rock star of a plant. It's the first sign of spring,
mm,
early March. These little bitty things with these really hard leaves that poke through the frozen ground, but
mm,
all of the intention I set, what is it that has served me well, and how can I nurture that over the winter, right? How can
mm.
I plan to use those strengths that I've found to move into the person I want to be in the spring, right? When that rebirth, if you will. Um, I don't know. That's kind of way that. How do you see,
Yeah, yeah, no,
that?
I love that. I love what you said about like letting go, because I think of like the trees, then they're letting go of their leaves. They're sacrificing their leaves to the earth. What do I not need so that this can turn into compost and then serve me in the summer, right? Like, what can I do to let this go? Yeah, no, with winter, it is like, I love what you have about this, like one or two intentions. And I see winter as like going into the darkness and not like a scary, the darkness is not a scary place. Our shadows are not scary things. They're just aspects of ourselves. And I mean, I'm not a scary person. You're not a scary person, but we have shadows, right? These aspects of ourselves. So it's like to be within self-reflection. So to slow down. That could be going out and doing a slow walk. You're not maybe climbing the whole mountain, but you're just doing like a low key trail in the area. Or maybe that is going to bed early and eating extra stews, extra hearty foods, like really like letting yourself hibernate a little bit if that's what feels good. And with that is that self-reflective time. It's a being more in solitude. I think that's okay, not wanting to go out and to really lean into like, I'm just going to be really slow and I'm going to love and accept that being slower and heavier and into this dark reflective time, so that when the spring comes, I'll have the energy to be able to plant those seeds and be the first one, be like a skunk cabbage or something that just like pops up first, rather than maybe one of the later ones that needs a little bit of time to get out there because you didn't do that reflection. Trees are doing that too. Their roots are going deeper in the winter. I mean, there's stuff happening. You just don't see it happening. I think that's so beautiful. I
Love
think we have
that.
to take that mirror of like, we don't have to see productivity, but we can be doing things internally in the house. And that could just be resting. It doesn't have to be like this, like, I'm gonna like heal my childhood trauma, It's like
Right.
it's like we're just gonna relax and then get to it. Like just one or two things, right? To like really focus in on, is the way I like to see
That's
winter.
so important what you said about, the movement, because nature doesn't, you know, often do things big, and
Yeah.
they do, but it's like, and that's
Yes.
what we kind of think about, like the hurricanes, those are big, right?
Mm,
But nature moves through the seasons slowly, and one of the things I wanted to point out was everything you're talking about, right, is self-care, and then that intentional taking care of yourself is so important, and that nurtures those seeds, that nurtures those, um your inner child, your soul, your all of that. That intentional self-care is something that is really important, and is something that you can really learn in a slow way, like nature, to take care of yourself in the winter when it is a little darker, when it is a little less light. That doesn't mean you don't take care of yourself, right? And from the solstice into the spring, right, into the summer, really, a little more light every day. So that's that sense of hope, and it gets a little more. You have a little more time to do that stuff in the daytime you want to do, for example, but really taking care of yourself with intention, I think, is a really powerful point.
yeah, yeah. And to really let yourself just do that. I think the hardest part is allowing yourself to rest. We live in a society where we have to work for rest. And nature doesn't do that. You don't have to work for anything. I mean, you do, but like, like squirrels definitely have to work for their
Right.
food but not in the way that we like have. Like they're not wondering if they're worthy of the nuts that they're collecting. Like we're constantly
Correct.
wondering if we're worthy of that. They just pick it up because they know that they need it and they want it. And we need to do the same thing with rest and slowing down in the winter, and for our seeds too for spring. Like I want that what do I need to do to focus on that? Or I want to sleep. Like, let me just go to sleep. Like, why do I have to stay up? Why can't I just take a mental health day for work? Can I take an extra day off between travel after the holidays? Like, what can we do for ourselves that without this, like, I earned this. You're just already innately worthy of it. Excuse me.
Exactly. Yeah. Love that. Absolutely. You are worth loving yourself. You're worth that care. You're worth that attention that we give to ourselves, that intention that we spend looking to care for ourselves. Um, what about some like specific, like if you were like with a client and like, what can I do, Lali, to really take care of myself this winter? Do you have any like specific things that you like to recommend other than obviously going out? For example, everyone talks about vitamin D and you don't get enough of it in the winter time, but we spend all of our time indoors and, because it's cold. But I like to recommend, make going out for just even 5 minutes in the morning hours of sunlight, just to get that. Cause it's not the same as taking a vitamin D pill. It's not the same thing. It's the
Yeah.
exposure to the sun, to the elements, it really kind of refreshes and makes you feel alive almost, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Not
if you feel like you
almost.
can't go outside, like if it's dark out by the time you have the opportunity, like you open your windows. Like we are getting so much CO2 in the rooms that we're in because it's just us. I mean, I have my little snake plant, but that's not gonna clear like all the CO2 that I'm producing by
Right.
sitting in here all day. But like we can get some of that fresh air because our mind, we need like that exchange between our breath, between like the trees and the plants and ourselves. So opening the windows, even for I know it's freezing here, it's like 20 degrees, but like opening the windows a little bit, getting some fresh in the air in there for like 5 minutes, then cranking up your space heater, whatever it is afterwards, getting some like fresh air in there. And then if you are inside, you don't have the opportunity to go outside, like really making that space you feel cozy and warm and like stocking up on your favorite teas and your warm beverages, getting like the nice blankets and getting cozy, warm lighting. Just really leaning into that cozy slowness of it all. Um, I think is what,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
I love that. I know I like to tell people to create like intentional, specific like self-care routines.
Mm,
So journaling, like you were saying, going to sleep early, taking care of yourself, right? Practicing like the ritual, the routine of caring for yourself, because
mm,
that's important. The journaling I find to be I'm always advocating for that because I mean, literally getting it out of your head on paper is just so helpful.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's amazing what sense you can make of the world when you go back and say, oh, look at that.
I know
uh,
it is fun to look back on journals. You're like, whoa, I was
Ooh,
going through that.
who knew? But also, like, my wife always says, cluttered house, cluttered mind. So when you're talking about making things cozy, it's like that organization, that taking care of your space as well as, your physical self. Because that is part your every day, you're there in that space. So making it cozy, making it feel good. It's a good time to declutter, organize so that you have this mental bandwidth and space in the spring, right? To kind of say, okay, now I'm gonna bloom, I'm gonna flower, I'm gonna, take action. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and really bringing that warmth within, and if that means leaving your Christmas decorations up until the end of January, then like, so be
yeah,
it. Those lights are so cozy, like
they're so cozy.
just let yourself lean into like what feels good for you,
Yes,
without again those expectations. I trying to shed as much as those, as I know it's not fall anymore, but we can still be shedding like some of those expectations and
absolutely.
yeah, and bringing, I mean, the Yule is on the solstice, Yule log, bringing the warmth into the house, bringing the evergreen into the house. The light's always with us, even in the darkness. It's always in your heart and in your soul. It's your natural state of being. But we can still be in that space of darkness without it becoming too overwhelming.
I
Yeah.
love that. That's amazing. Thank you for saying that. Really,
Yeah.
that was beautiful. Wow. Um, I wow, that's a just that's powerful. I appreciate that. In the winter is the time you get to process all of that, right? That's what the earth is
Mhm.
doing with the seeds. It's nurturing, processing those so that we can take action in the spring, like we were saying. But the way you framed that was just beautiful. That light is always there, even in the dark, and it's inside us, and we need to look, be
Yeah.
intentional, be
Look
mindful.
within.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, thank you so much. That was
Thank you. This
I
was a
think
good
that's a great
talk.
way. I think that's said it all right there. So um I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to add about seasonal stuff, nature in this solstice? I know I'm excited. Hopefully we can do this again in the spring equinox and kind of talk about all of that, how we can take some action maybe, and what that would look like, because it's, like I was saying, the flowers coming up, rebirth, and all of that. It's a seasonal
Yeah.
living. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. Yeah, I'd love to talk and equinox and keep up with the seasonal transition and
Love
be
that.
sharing our insights on this. And for I would just say, I guess my final note would just be like just lean into the natural way of the world, what you observe in nature. If you observe slowness in nature itself, then lean into that because it's mirroring it to you for a reason. If you're seeing a lot of energy and speeding up, even in the dead of winter, lean into that. I mean,
Lean
it's
into that.
you're meant to see is what you're meant to experience, and it's mirrored back to you for a reason. So
I
I
love
say
that
just
because your relationship with anyone, right? And nature, your partner, your family, it's unique to you, your personal view of that relationship. And so I think that's important. What you're saying is to really be in touch with what you see and lean into that,
mm,
nurture that, and be open to that. I think that's a wonderful way to end. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you,
this is
Lali. Do you
awesome.
want to spend a minute here, like plugging any socials or anything you got going on, website, stuff like that?
Yeah, thank you for that opportunity. I forget that sometimes. Yeah, you can find me at innerworldspsychotherapy.com or on Instagram at innerworldspsychotherapy and also TikTok, innerworldspsychotherapy. And that's worlds, I'm emphasizing with an S, multiple
Yes.
worlds.
All these links will be in the show notes and everything for
Great.
those watching the podcast or listening to the podcast. It will be on video as well as audio. So I think the nature of mental health will be on, it's on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, Amazon Music. Well, that's what Audible. So all the main ones there. And
Amazing.
yeah, thank you so much, Lali. I really appreciated this,
Thank
and
you.
this was wonderful.
Amazing. Thanks so much. I can't wait for the equinox.
Yes, awesome. See you.
See you then.
Thanks for listening to The Nature of Mental Health. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow, rate, and share the show. It helps others find their way to this community. For more resources, visit riverstonementalhealth.com. Until next time, notice the small spaces where nature meets your day. Stay curious, and may you find resilience in every season.